The sirens blared across the colossal cityscape of Terra Prime, the last stronghold of humanity. Crimson emergency lights flickered across towering skyscrapers, casting eerie shadows over the desolate streets below. Commander Elias Voss stood at the command center, his piercing blue eyes scanning the digital holomap displaying the incoming alien fleet. A swarm of death, growing larger by the second. "How much time do we have?" Elias asked, his voice calm but carrying the weight of impending doom. "Less than 6 hours, Commander," replied Lieutenant Miracane, her fingers dancing over the console as she pulled up real-time data. "The Avathian Armada has broken through our outer defenses. The last orbital shields will hold for no more than 4 hours." Elias exhaled sharply. Humanity had prepared for this moment for years, but deep down they had all clung to a shred of hope, a hope that negotiations or diplomacy might have worked. But the Ivathians were not the kind to negotiate. They were conquerors, destroyers of civilizations. The fall of Terra Prime was imminent. "Begin evacuation procedures," he ordered. "Get the civilians to the Exodus fleet. Prioritize essential personnel, but I want as many survivors as possible on those ships." Mira nodded and relayed the command. The Exodus fleet was humanity's last chance, a convoy of hastily constructed interstellar ships designed for deep space travel. Their destination, an uncharted system rumored to hold a habitable planet. If they could escape, there was a chance to rebuild. If not, this was the end. The infiltration. The underground evacuation tunnels were in chaos. Thousands of people moved in an orderly panic, desperate to reach the transport shuttles. Parents held their children tightly. Soldiers ushered the masses forward, and engineers frantically worked to keep the life support systems functional in the crumbling city. Dr. Evelyn Carter adjusted her glasses, glancing at the biometric scanner attached to her wrist. The readings were erratic. Too many signatures in close proximity. The air was thick with tension and sweat. She had spent her entire career designing the very technology keeping this place afloat, and now she was about to abandon it. A sudden explosion rocked the underground tunnels. Dust and debris cascaded from the ceiling. Screams erupted as emergency lights flickered, then dimmed. The Ivathians had breached the lower sectors. In the vast emptiness of space, a fleet of battered human ships flees from a monstrous alien warship looming in the distance. The enemy vessel is a twisted mass of biomechanical design, its jagged edges glowing with molten energy. The human ships, visibly damaged with torn hulls and flickering engines, struggle to maintain formation. Debris from destroyed vessels floats through the void. Explosions erupt in the distance, their fiery glow casting eerie shadows on the damaged ship surfaces. The lighting is stark. Harsh white glows from emergency beacons contrast with the deep black of space, while realistic reflections ripple across the metallic ship exteriors. Her heart pounded as the screen blinked to life. Upload complete. Activation in progress. A deep, mechanical voice echoed through the speakers. Project Genesis activated. Outside, in the depths of space, something stirred. The sky above Terra Prime was burning. Fiery debris rained down as the Avathian Armada tore through the last orbital defenses. The city below, once a beacon of human progress, was now a war zone, a battlefield where survival was the only rule. The Exodus fleet, humanity's last hope, was still fueling in the underground launch bays, a fragile dream clinging to life amidst the chaos. Commander Elias Voss stood at the command center, his knuckles white as he gripped the railing, watching the battle unfold. The Guardian Mech deployed at the southern perimeter fought valiantly, their towering frames cutting down enemy forces. But it was not enough. The Ivathians were relentless. Status on the fleet? Elias barked. Lieutenant Miracane, her face glistening with sweat, scanned the live data feed. 60% fueled. We need another 30 minutes at minimum. Elias cursed under his breath. We don't have 30 minutes. A deep rumble shook the facility as another explosion rocked the city. The ground beneath them trembled, signaling the inevitable collapse of their defenses. The betrayal unfolds. Darius Orlon was still reeling from the sting of Elias' pistol pressed against his temple. His heart pounded as he stared into the commander's cold, unforgiving gaze. "You sold us out," Elias growled. "How much did they promise you?" Darius swallowed hard, sweat beading on his forehead. "You don't understand. Elias, we can't win this. The Ivathians, they don't negotiate," Elias interrupted. "They conquer, and you just handed them a knife to slit our throats." Before Darius could protest, the facility doors burst open. A squad of Ivathian enforcers stormed in, their elongated, insectoid frames moving with unnatural speed. Elias fired first, dropping two before they could react. Darius took the opportunity to dive for cover, scrambling toward a concealed data terminal. If he could finish the transmission, the Ivathians would know the exact location of the Exodus fleet. Myra's voice rang through Elias' communicator. "Commander, they're inside. We need backup now." Elias had no time to deal with Darius. He fired one last shot, aiming for Councilman's leg, before sprinting toward the evacuation tunnels. Darius screamed as he hit the floor, clutching his wounded leg. But his fingers still found the keyboard, and with a trembling touch, he sent the final transmission. Coordinates received. Prepare for planetary bombardment. The last offenders. Outside, in the war-torn streets of Terra Prime, Captain Rourke and a platoon of shock troopers held their ground. Plasma rounds streaked through the night, illuminating the battlefield in bursts of violent blue and red. The Guardian mechs towered over the streets, their autocannons thundering, cutting down waves of Ivathian warriors. "Hold the line," Rourke bellowed, reloading his rifle. "We just need to buy them a little more time." A Ivathian war beast, a massive, quadrupedal creature with armored plating and razor-sharp mandibles, charged the barricades, sending soldiers flying. The ground trembled under its weight as it let out a guttural roar. Rourke cursed. "We need heavy artillery now." One of the Guardian pilots responded over the comms. "On it, sir." With mechanical whir, a Guardian mech leaped onto the beast's back, driving its plasma sword deep into its exoskeleton. The creature howled in agony before collapsing in a heap of smoldering flesh and metal. But for every enemy they killed, more took their place. Rourke knew this was a losing battle. He just hoped Elias was right, hoped that the Exodus fleet was worth dying for. Project Genesis awakens. Deep within the underground command bunker, Dr. Evelyn Carter watched as the final sequence uploaded. Her hands trembled as the screen displayed the words. Project Genesis, online. A low hum filled the room. Ancient systems, buried beneath Terra Prime for centuries, came to life. Evelyn had spent years studying these artifacts, forgotten remnants of an advanced civilization that once thrived before humanity. And now, their last chance for survival depended on these relics. A voice, synthetic yet strangely human, echoed from the speakers. Activation sequence complete. Awaiting directive. Evelyn swallowed hard. Initiate planetary defense override. Deploy all available assets to protect the Exodus fleet. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the earth shook as hidden doors across the city slid open. Automated defense drones, long dormant, rose from their slumber. Monolithic towers, thought to be ruins, revealed concealed weapons, humming to life. The Ivathians faltered. They had not expected this. But neither had humanity. A desperate escape. Elias ran through the tunnels, panting as he reached the main evacuation chamber. Hundreds of civilians were still boarding the Exodus ships, guided by armed guards. Mira turned to him, eyes wide. "Sir, what the hell is happening out there?" Elias allowed himself a small smile. A miracle. Before Mira could respond, an alarm blared. The Ivathian fleet was charging their main weapon. Evelyn's voice came through the comms. "Elias, we have a problem. The bombardment is coming, and even Genesis can't stop it." Elias clenched his fists. "How long until the ships are ready? We are what remains. The architects. The ones who built before your kind. The ones who fell when the darkness came." Evelyn whispered, "The predecessors, they weren't just myths." The vanguard lurched violently as the rift gravity intensified. The voices grew distorted, overlapping, drowning in a cacophony of warnings and wails. "You must choose. Flee and be hunted, or enter the abyss and learn the truth." The rift yawned wider, its edges crackling with unnatural energy. The fleet teetered on the brink of decision. And Elias knew he had no choice. The leap of faith. All ships, brace for entry. Elias commanded. Mira turned to him, incredulous. We're going in? Elias met her gaze, resolve hardening. If we turn back, we'll be running blind. If we go in, we might find answers, maybe even allies. The fleet's engines roared as the first ships vanished into the abyss. One by one, they were swallowed by the darkness, pulled beyond the veil of known space. The moment the Vanguard crossed the event horizon, everything changed. Light ceased to exist. The ship's instruments failed. For a moment, they were nothing. And then, the darkness lifted. The fleet emerged into a realm beyond comprehension. Colossal structures, ancient and alien, drifted through the void, their surfaces etched with golden runes pulsating with unknown power. Gigantic vessels, larger than any human ship, lay dormant, as if waiting for something to awaken them. And in the center of it all, a single world hung in the abyss, its surface shimmering with an ethereal glow. Elias exhaled. We're not alone. As the fleet approached, the signal returned, stronger than ever. Welcome, last of humanity. Your trial begins now. The darkness that had swallowed the fleet now gave way to an eerie luminescence. The ancient structures loomed ahead, their golden inscriptions pulsating like a heartbeat. The Vanguard systems flickered, struggling to process the incomprehensible data flooding in. Elias Voss stood motionless, staring at the vast, haunting beauty before them. My God! Evelyn Carter whispered from the comms lab. This place isn't just old. It's ancient, predecessor tech beyond anything we've ever seen. Mira Kane's fingers were tense against the tactical console. Commander, are we sure we should be here? That warning back at the rift. What if this is a trap? Elias exhaled, his jaw tightening. We don't have a choice. We're adrift in the unknown, and this place might hold answers. If the predecessors really existed, maybe they left something behind, something that can help us. The moment the fleet moved closer to the celestial structures, their shipboard AI responded. Anomalous energy signature detected. Unknown gravitational field engaged. The Vanguard jolted violently, alarm shrieking through the bridge. We're being pulled in. Calloway yelled from the science station. Elias grabbed onto his chair. Reverse thrusters. Try to break free. Too late. We're caught in a tractor field. Mira shouted. Something's dragging us toward that structure. The fleet was powerless against the force pulling them inward. As they approached the largest structure, an energy barrier surrounded the massive gateway, shimmering with an otherworldly hue. The moment the Vanguard crossed the threshold, everything went dark. The awakening, a moment of silence. Then a pulse of golden light flooded the ship's bridge, cascading over the crew like a tidal wave. Elias felt his mind stretch beyond its limits, as if something was reaching inside him, searching, measuring. The ship's lights flickered back to life, and the displays went online, showing data in a language they couldn't comprehend. Vanguard. The voice resonated through every channel, every screen. It was layered, ancient, and yet familiar. Elias clenched his fists. Who are you? We are the architects, the ones who came before. You have entered the last bastion of the old war. The trial awaits. Myra's hands trembled. What trial? The voice didn't answer. Instead, the ships of the fleet began moving, not by their own command, but by an external force, guiding them into a massive docking bay within the structure. As soon as they settled, the screens changed. Symbols shifted, rearranging into readable text. Survive. A tremor shook the station. Then another. The darkness beyond the walls stirred. Something was coming. The Forgotten Guardians. Evelyn's fingers flew across the controls. I'm detecting massive power surges beneath the station. Something is activating. A deep, guttural hum resonated through the walls, and then a colossal figure emerged in the shadows of the docking bay. A mechanical behemoth, standing twice the height of any human, its metallic body engraved with the same golden runes that adorned the station. Its eyes glowed with a cold, calculating light. Then another one stepped forward, and another. Myra's breath hitched. Are those war machines? Calloway nodded, voice barely above a whisper. Sentinels. Predecessor guardians. And they're waking up. The sentinels moved in unison, their heavy steps echoing like thunder. The largest among them raised its hand, and the moment it did, every weapon system aboard the fleet went offline. Weapons disabled. Evelyn cried out, "We're defenseless." Elias forced himself to stay calm. "They're testing us. This is a trial." The lead sentinel's eyes flickered, scanning them with unreadable intent. Then a deep voice echoed through the bay. "The last of your kind has come. Prove your worth or be erased." And with that, the sentinels charged. The trial begins. The vanguard shook as the first blast from the sentinels impacted the shielding. Elias gritted his teeth. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. We don't have weapons." Mira shouted. "Then we outmaneuver them. Use everything we've got." The fleet split apart, engines roaring as they darted through the docking bay. The sentinels moved with terrifying speed, their massive limbs striking out at the fleeing vessels. One of the smaller ships wasn't fast enough. Its hull crumpled under a devastating blow. Its crew lost in an instant. "We have to stop this." Evelyn yelled. "There has to be a way to communicate." Calloway's eyes widened as he analyzed the runes. "They're not just attacking, they're assessing, measuring our response." Elias mind raced. "If this is a test, we need to show them we're not a threat. Find another way." Before anyone could answer, a strange vibration resonated through the air. A new presence made itself known. A smaller, cloaked figure appeared on an elevated platform above the docking bay. Unlike the sentinels, this entity was not a machine. It was something else, something neither entirely organic nor synthetic. Its eyes glowed with the same golden light, and when it spoke, its voice was layered with ancient echoes. "Enough!" The sentinels halted instantly, their towering forms freezing mid-attack. The entity stepped forward, raising a hand. The golden symbols in the air shifted once more, and the fleet systems began rebooting. Elias took a step forward, his breath shallow. "Who are you?" The being regarded him carefully before speaking again. "You have passed the first trial. You did not retaliate with violence. You did not act as those who came before you. Perhaps you are different." Evelyn's voice was barely above a whisper. "And if we had fought back?" The entity's eyes dimmed slightly. "Then your kind would have been judged unworthy, and this would have been your grave." Silence settled over the fleet. Elias exhaled, his heart still racing. "What happens now?" The entity turned, gesturing toward the massive inner chambers beyond the docking bay. "Now you learn the truth." The gateways groaned open, revealing a path deeper into the ancient stronghold. The fleet had taken its first step into the unknown, and the real trial was only beginning. The gateway loomed before them, its colossal frame pulsating with an eerie golden glow. Beyond it lay the answers to questions humanity had asked for centuries. Who were the predecessors, and what had become of them? More importantly, what was humanity's place in this grand cosmic puzzle? Elias Voss stood at the forefront, his heart pounding. The entity that had halted the sentinels now turned its glowing gaze towards him. "Step forward, Vanguard. It is time for you to witness the truth." Mira Kane, Evelyn Carter, and Calloway exchanged glances, their expressions tense yet resolute. They followed Elias as he crossed the threshold. The moment they stepped inside, the chamber around them flickered to life. Vast holographic displays ignited, revealing a sweeping vision of the universe, ancient beyond measure. Symbols shifted, forming coherent imagery. The entity raised its hands, and the past unfolded before their eyes. The fall of the predecessors. A galactic civilization once thrived, spanning entire star systems. The predecessors were beings of immense intellect, wielding technology that bent reality itself. Their empire flourished for millennia, untouched by war or destruction. Then the cataclysm came. The chamber trembled as the visions turned darker. From a void beyond known space, an entity unlike any other emerged, a force of absolute entropy. It was neither organic nor mechanical, but something beyond comprehension. It consumed entire systems, reducing once thriving civilizations to dust. The predecessors fought back, wielding their most advanced weapons. They constructed the great fortresses, like the one humanity now stood in, to repel the darkness. But it was not enough. One by one, their worlds fell. Their fleets were shattered. Their people were lost. The last survivors sealed themselves away in the ancient bastions, leaving behind only their guardians, the sentinels, to test those who would come after them. The entity turned toward Elias. You were never meant to find this place. Yet here you stand. And now the same force that ended us knows you exist. The return of the Devourer. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the fortress. The energy reading spiked beyond measure. Something had followed them. Something ancient. Evelyn's voice shook. Commander, I'm reading an incoming anomaly, massive in scale. It's the same pattern that ended the predecessors. The entity's eyes burned with intensity. The Devourer has found you. It will not stop. It will not negotiate. It exists only to consume. The chamber shook violently. Screens flickered, revealing the abyss outside the station. A monstrous shadow had appeared, its form shifting and writhing like a living nightmare. It was unlike anything the human mind could comprehend, and yet it radiated pure, insatiable hunger. Myra's voice cracked. What do we do? We don't stand a chance against that thing. Elias clenched his fists. We don't fight. We run. Calloway snapped his head toward him. Run? Where? This thing just hunted down the most advanced civilization in history. How do we escape something like that? The entity turned towards the main console, its hands weaving patterns in the air. The walls of the chamber shifted, revealing an ancient star map. There is one way, a path that the predecessors never dared to take, the last uncharted slipstream. A single route glowed on the star map, leading into an unknown region of space, a place even the predecessors feared. Elias made his decision. If it's our only chance, we take it. The entity's gaze lingered on him for a moment. Then it nodded. Then let us give you time. The final stand. The fortress trembled as the Devourer closed in. The sentinels, once humanity's potential executioners, now stood as their final protectors. Go, Vanguard. This place was never meant to be your tomb. The fleet powered up, engines roaring to life. The docking bay doors groaned open, revealing the terrifying void beyond. The sentinels moved into formation, readying themselves for an unwinnable battle. All ships, prepare for emergency slipstream jump. Elias barked over comms. This is it. The moment the fleet launched from the station, the Devourer struck. The fortress walls crumbled under its unnatural force. The sentinels unleashed their full arsenal, beams of golden energy lashing out. The ancient machines fought valiantly, but they were outmatched. One by one, they were torn apart, but their sacrifice had bought the fleet time. The anomaly's mouth yawned open, a vortex of sheer oblivion. Elias watched as the fortress, the last remnant of the predecessors, was consumed in an instant. We're almost there, Mira shouted. The fleet engaged full burn toward the uncharted slipstream. The Devourer lunged, and then, in a blinding flash, the fleet crossed into the unknown. A new beginning. The darkness receded. The ship stabilized. The screens flickered back online. Elias exhaled, his hands still gripping the controls. Did we make it? Evelyn scanned the readings. I think so. We're somewhere new. Deep space. Far beyond any charted territory. No signs of the Devourer. Mira slumped back, exhausted. So what now? We're lost. The last of humanity, drifting in a place even the predecessors feared. Elias looked out into the void. It was vast, unknown, but it was also full of possibilities. He turned to his crew, determination burning in his eyes. Now we survive. We rebuild, and we find a new home. The final transmissions from a fortress echoed in the ship's logs, warnings, knowledge, and a single final message from the entity. Your kind has been judged worthy. Now go, and do not repeat our mistakes. The fleet pressed onward into the great unknown. Humanity had escaped annihilation, but their true journey was only beginning.